the Indian motorcycle market has absolutely exploded over the last 5 years. To the point where buying a bike in 2025 feels like being on Tinder with so many choices and most of them being a complete waste of your time. Not just red flags, the entire it can feel overwhelming to cut through the hype and find the perfect bike for you from the endless options available. Now, there are plenty of bikes that you will instinctively steer clear of, like the ones with lower sales figures than a limited edition Bugatti. But here's the real trap. The bikes that get hyped up by the motorcycle community or have amazing specs on paper, but turn out to be the two-wheeled equivalents of pineapple on pizza. And that is what we are tackling today. Here are 6 bikes that you should avoid buying in 2025. That pineapple pizza thing was just a joke, by the way. Hawaiian pizza is awesome. Don't knock it before you try it. At number 6 on this list is the Xpulse 200 non-pro version. Now, don't get me wrong, this bike is an absolute legend and will be remembered for years to come. But honestly, it's time to let this hero retire because of the new kid on the block, the Xpulse 210. And for about a 15% price bump, you get a brand new bike from the ground up. It's not the smallest price bump, I admit, but in return, you get a significantly more powerful liquid-cooled engine that feels amazing on the highways, off-road and in the city. Plus, the god-tier ergonomics from the Xpulse 200 are somehow improved in the Xpulse 210. They've placed the tank in a more vertical orientation so that the handlebars can be closer to you. And when you stand up on this bike now, it feels super natural. You are in complete control of where the motorcycle is going. On top of that, you're getting LED lights all the way around, a much better screen layout, and a host of little upgrades that take the Xpulse experience to another level. So all in all, you're getting about a 30% better bike for 15% more money. So unless you are super tight on the budget or if you're planning to start a vintage hero museum, you should completely avoid the Xpulse 200 and skip to the Xpulse 210 instead. At number 5, we have CB300F from Honda. And on paper, this bike seems like a fantastic deal. But in reality, this is built for a very specific kind of buyer. It's one of the most affordable 300cc bikes currently on sale in India. But when you ride it, you realize that it's got the soul of a Unicorn 160. And let's face it, the only people dreaming of owning a Unicorn right now are 5-year-old girls. It might look like a sporty naked like the Honda Hornet, but in character, it is more like the Unicorn 160 in the way it rides. They share the same engine stroke, they have the same peak power RPM and the same peak torque RPM. That means even though it is making more power and torque than the Unicorn, it is putting that power down in the exact same way. Sure, it looks sporty, but so does a Chihuahua in a cricket jersey. It's all bark and no bite. It's honestly great for someone who wants a laid-back and relaxed ride that looks stylish and has plenty of torque. In fact, you can think of it as a lighter, more manageable alternative to the heavy retro bikes in the 350cc segment. To be honest, I think Honda has completely missed the mark on branding this bike properly in India. Because if they called it the Unicorn 300 instead of the CB300F, I think it would see a lot more interested buyers and it would also communicate to the buyer what exactly they are buying into. But for everyone else buying a sports naked under 2 lakhs, there are so many better options out there in the 250 and 200cc class. Number 4. The Interceptor and Continental GT650. Beautiful bikes that scream midlife crisis but deliver more mid than crisis. Okay, jokes aside, it honestly pains me to say this because I absolutely love these bikes. But hear me out. There's a reason these 2 bikes made the list, but the other Royal Enfield 650s didn't. The issue is that the Interceptor and GT set the wrong expectations for the buyer. The rest of the bikes with the 650cc engine are clearly designed for a chilled out ride. And surprise, surprise, the Interceptor and GT based on the same platform are made for a very similar purpose. So what exactly is the problem? The insane hype that is around these 2 bikes. People who shouldn't be buying them are getting swept up in the excitement. The Royal Enfield GT Cup and the countless drag race videos on YouTube have created this image of the Interceptor and Continental as these fast and wild machines that are meant to be ridden aggressively. But that's really not what they're good at. If you are expecting the performance of a KTM but end up with the agility of a 3-legged camel, don't say I didn't warn you. These bikes weigh a hefty 215 kilograms and make only 47 horsepower. That is your first clue. In tight corners, you'll feel like you're arm wrestling the bike because all it really wants to do is go straight. And speaking of going straight, these bikes are not exactly meant for high-speed runs either, because the handlebar gets pretty wobbly at triple-digit speed. If you are in the category of people who want to go fast, carve corners and have fun, then you've got so many better options to choose from. There's the Gorilla 450, the 400cc Triumphs, the 310cc TVSs, and of course the KTMs and Huskies. At number 3, we've got the Apache RTR 200. Now let me start by saying that this bike is a fan favorite for a reason. It's lightweight, tractable and delivers a respectable amount of power, making it a solid choice for many enthusiasts. However, as of June 2025, I'd advise against buying this one, and here's why. First, this bike is almost certainly due for an update very soon. Its smaller sibling, the RTR 160, recently got USD forks, which makes it very likely that the RTR 200 is next in line for a refresh. Second, the competition has seriously stepped up. At around the same price, you've got the Pulsar NS200 and N250, which offer similar or better features. They're just as capable in terms of handling and deliver more power than the Apache. The only notable feature that the RTR 200 currently has is the preload adjustable front suspension. But honestly, you don't even need it on a bike like this. The upright seating position means you're not putting significant weight on the handlebars. Not that you should on any bike. So a default preload setting would work just fine for almost all riders. A better move would have been to provide compression and rebound adjustability, which would have changed the riding dynamics more significantly. Now let's talk about where the preload adjustment does matter. The rear suspension. It is especially important when riding with a pillion or carrying extra weight. Now you might look at the spec sheet and say, Vedant, what the are you talking about? The Apache does have an adjustable rear preload. But what the spec sheet won't tell you is that the rear preload adjustability requires you to dismantle your bike first. Imagine having to strip your car down every time you want to adjust the driver's seat, because that's the level of engineering genius we're dealing with here. As someone who adjusts the preload before every long ride with a pillion, I know how important it is to maintain ride quality and comfort. Not having this adjustability will definitely compromise the experience for both the rider and the pillion. If you're considering an Apache RTR 200, my advice is to wait for an update or look elsewhere entirely. Personally, I would take the NS200 any day of the week. It's got 20% more power, upside-down forks, and a preload adjustable rear suspension that doesn't require you to do a Vastraharan of your bike. If the Pulsar NS200 feels too rev-happy or aggressive to you, then the Pulsar N250 is a great alternative. It has a torquier, more relaxed ride while retaining all the features that I mentioned earlier. Both these Pulsars are far better rounded choices compared to the Apache in today's market. We're down to number 2 and we have a triple whammy over here. The Bajaj Dominar 400, the Dominar 250 and the RS 200. Let's start with the Dominars. The Dominars are marketed as power cruisers, but in reality, they are glorified elephants on wheels. Remember Bajaj's Hathi Mat Palo ads? Turns out they were prophesizing their own bikes. Because at 193 kgs, it is exactly as heavy as a Royal Enfield Classic 350. A bike which the Dominar tried to make fun of in the Hathi Mat Palo ads. Enter the Pulsar NS400Z, which absolutely obliterates both of the Dominars. It's lighter, more powerful, has better brakes, stickier tires, and a shorter wheelbase for faster handling. And get this, it's cheaper than the Dominar 400. In fact, it is priced almost exactly the same as the Dominar 250. Plus, the touring accessories from the Dominar 400 like the top rack and pannier mounts are a direct fit on the NS bikes. So if touring is your goal, you are completely covered here. It's a no-brainer. The Dominars in their current form have no reason to exist in Bajaj's current lineup. Now on to the Pulsar RS 200. At first glance, it seems like a decent value when compared to its fully fed rivals like the Karizma XMR, R15, RC200, Gixxer SF250. But the cracks start to show when you realize that you can get the NS400Z for the exact same price. And if that wasn't enough, the RS200 is basically just a fed version of the NS200 with the same seating position as well. But the NS now comes with USD forks and costs over 35,000 rupees less. It's hard to justify the RS200 when its naked sibling offers so much more value for so much less money. In short, these three bikes are just outclassed in 2025. And it's time for Bajaj to upgrade them or move on entirely. Finally, we've arrived at number 1 on this list. The Ola Roadster and all of its variants. As of now, this bike deserves no one's money. The Ola bikes are so hyped up that it makes Bollywood marketing campaigns look subtle. On paper, it's the Steve Jobs of motorcycles, but in reality, it's more like Elizabeth Holmes. When Ola unveiled the Roadster at Suncult 2024, they made their usual bold claims. On paper, it looks so good, it could even tempt the most hardcore petrol heads to make the switch to electric. But if there's one thing that we've learned about Ola, it's this: do not trust their product until it has proven itself on the market. Buying their bikes at this stage is like paying 1 lakh rupees to be set up on a blind date. Before you get swept up in the hype or their flashy marketing, I want you to stop and take a breath. Let the Roadster prove itself in the real world for at least a year. Observe if Ola has truly ironed out the flaws that have plagued their earlier products. If they can deliver a reliable bike with proper after-sales support, it might be worth considering. Until then, let someone else roll the dice first, because gambling on Ola right now is about as smart as licking a live wire to see if it's working.
Let's try it out. What the f?
That track record is riddled with blunders and overblown promises that haven't held up in the real world. From quality issues to questionable after-sales support, they've consistently fallen short of delivering on their claims. And that's why, at least for me, Ola is guilty until proven innocent this time around. And that's a wrap. Tell me in the comments which other bikes you think deserve to be on this list, or if I just dragged your dream machine through the mud. Subscribe for more brutally honest takes, and I will see you in the next one.